like let's
land records.
see like what do you do? Like let's say you want to, let's say do you live in Cookeville? Okay, what's your name?
Allison.
Allison, I'm Glen. I'm Glen Jones. Allison, you bought a house in Cookeville and it's got 2 acres, and you think you know where the 2 acres is, and then what's your name?
Linda.
Linda moved next door, but you were there already, and she thinks that her land goes bigger than it is.
Right.
So what she has to do, the first thing is she has to go. Now a lot of people that have money or waste their money, they will just go hire somebody. Well, you hire a surveyor, how do you know that they're reputable? How do you know that it's not her cousin? You see, because that's what they're doing. So what you have to do is you go to the courthouse. First thing you do is go to your deed, and you find your deed. Then you find the deed previous to your deed, and then you find the one before that. Somewhere down the line, they divided that property. It was more than 2 acres. You see what I mean? It might have been 10 acres, and some of that 10 acres might be your acres. It might have been that direction instead of this away. And then you can figure out when they divided it, it tells the description. That's how you figure it out. So that's why you go to the courthouse. Well, you might want to go 100 years back, and you're going to wonder, that leads to the story that we're talking today. And that's this gentleman right here. And his last name is Gracie. And I didn't know this story until about a month ago. I figured this story out, and it's really amazing. You'll find this, there should be a monument up there, but there's not, about this guy. His name's Charlie Gracie. I don't know how old he is right there. I have his death certificate. We looked it all up. He was born in White County, and he was living with his grandfather on Jefferson, North Jefferson, and his grandfather was 76 years old when he was 18 years old. And he was 18 in 1899. Well, what happened in 1899? That goes with that right there. The courthouse burned. Okay? So, I didn't really know. See, I know Jackson County history the same. Maybe. It's easier to figure out. Putnam County's history is kind of unusual. It's like you get bits and pieces here and there. Somebody wrote a book, they add this. This one don't have that, and this has got something, that one don't have, that one's got something. No one seemed to read the other ones when they wrote their own. So you won't learn, and I don't know how they got this, but they say the county was established the second time in 1854. It was once established in 1842 over where the Bell Acres Golf Course is. That was called Monticello. That was the first capital of Putnam County. It was named Monticello in 1842. Well, it ran several years, maybe 3 years, just like it runs now. Well, Overton County and Jackson County sued them, the newly established Putnam County. So all the commissioners and the sheriff and all that were summoned to court, and they said that it was illegal how the new Putnam County in 1842 was established. So they got scared, believing that the circuit or the chancery court of those counties had jurisdiction. So they just went out of business. So what they did, they took the court books that they already had, because they'd run for 3 years. They look just like the ones now. So the 1842 circuit court book, somebody throwed it on a horse and drove it to Gainesboro and stuck it in the courthouse down there. So all the books, marriage certificates, everything that was done legally, deeds and all that, were taken to Jackson County. The state legislature said, take those books to Jackson County, and they would take care of them. So the land went back to Jackson County. Well, several years later, in 1854, Richard Fielding Cook, a guy from Double Springs, he was a senator, he decided that he wanted it to be Putnam County again. So as a legislature, he was a senator, he brought up a bill, and they actually reenacted the Putnam County Act that made the county. So when they made the county, they decided they're not going to use Monticello anymore, they're going to use Cookeville. So they had to find land for Cookeville. So they found this guy named Crook. His last name was Crook, that's a weird name, but he owned these 40 acres. He actually owned more than 40 acres, he owned 100 acres, but he decided to sell 40 acres for the price that he paid the 100 to his brother not long before that. So they had an argument on this property versus that place where the Bell Acres Golf Course is. So the people from over there wanted it to stay Monticello, So they poisoned one of the town springs here. There's two of them. So they were fighting back and forth where they're going to put this new town. So this one won. They voted, barely won, but so the Cookeville area, this 40 acres was established. So we're getting back. Remember that 1842 circuit court book? Okay, that's what's a wild. See, nobody will tell this story because I don't know if they put it together. So it says, I have no idea where they got this from. So when I write notes, just like when I watch the news, especially the ones I mentioned earlier, I would always say, not sure about anything they just said. So I want to find something else. I even write it in my notes because if somebody finds these notes years from now, since I'm the archivist, I would want them to know, because they would figure out my handwriting because I write like a kindergartner, big. They would want to know that I don't know that that's true or not. So it says the first courthouse was built in 1855, and it was built by J.C. Copeland for $6,000. How do they know that? I don't know how they know that. Burned in 1857. How do they know that? See, just because somebody writes it doesn't mean it. How do they know that? I don't know how they know that. Built a second one, same cost. How do they know that? This is what it says in a history book. Like, don't you wonder how did they know that? Same plan. That's what it says. And it burned during the Civil War. Well, everybody that tells me when it burned during the Civil War, the date they say it burned is not the same date as the Civil War. So I wrote Civil War 1861-65. So this is what they say this one burned. This is the second one. They say it burned when there were Union troops camped outside on the lawn. And they had
black Union troops?
Black Union troops were camped outside the lawn, and it burned, and a fire got out and burned the courthouse. Now that's what they say, okay? That's really said a bunch of times, but how do they know that? I don't know. So the third courthouse, and how do I know it's the third courthouse? I don't know, and I don't think nobody knows. That's why when history's told, teachers, professors, and I went to college too, believe it or not. I talk funny like I don't, but I didn't trust anything they said because I would look stuff up myself, and I had a good memory, and they were just regular people getting paid, telling you something. Just because it's written in a book, how do you know that book was written correctly? So this is what I question history, and I think everyone with an open mind should question everything when they talk about history. Don't just let somebody tell you something and you believe it, because there's no proof of this. Okay, how do we know it's the third courthouse? I have no idea. No, and I talk like this everywhere I go. No one's told me, so nobody knows. They say the third one is a 2-story brick building with 2 stairwells, and it burned in 1899. Well, we do know that one of them burned in 1899, so that's going back to this story. The reason I know one burned in 1899 because there's a newspaper article about it. Got it from microfilm. And I'm going to read that story because this is important. It burned in 1899.
And what date is this that this picture is taken right here?
When is that picture taken?
Yes.
1911.
Okay.
And the reason why it's built in 1911 is because, see, they got boards down here. They're making a foundation for that. See, there's a regular fence. They're making a foundation. Now, nobody told me this. It's just me looking at different pictures. They're building that rock wall. Because in 1912, there's a picture I got, and it's got the rock wall there.
Okay.
And the rock wall's not here, and it says 1911 on the back, the old picture that I blew up from. So that's how you learn stuff. Pictures usually don't always have the date, but if they do, you can get a lot from just by, if you look and see what the difference is. And I'll read this, because this is interesting about the courthouse. This tells about the fence, okay? And you'll find that amazing too. So let me tell you about the burning of the courthouse. I never seen this article, but I did find it in a history book after a man found this on microfilm. This guy right here, Charlie Gracie, should be on a monument or a historical marker. But he probably, I don't know why, can't figure out why. There's something wrong here. We blew that picture up. So if you go to the courthouse and you do research, you're going to find all of the registered deed books are in the courthouse. Like, why are they there? The ones from 1854 are there. Everything
The
burned.
one they were supposed to be taking to Jackson County?
No, that was 1842.
Okay.
Okay, the 1854 is when the deed books start again. We don't have any deed books from 1854 to 1842. Have no idea what happened to them. Never found them. And I was the first archivist of Jackson County. So of course I dug everything out and looked for everything that said Putnam County, and I found some stuff. And of course the 1842 book. Well, that's another story, we'll get into that. So this is what's interesting about this. We know it burned in 1899 only because the historical marker on the square says that one was built in 1900. So that's how we kind of figured it must have burned a year or two before. Well, this article was found just the other day, fire in town. Our Temple of Justice burned to the ground, generally believed to be the work of an incendiary, meaning somebody set it on fire, which they did. Only a very small percent of the documents were saved. So if you went and researched, you kind of, in the records we have, you wonder, how do we have them? Something's really strange here, and I never could figure it out. They'd say, well, the registered deed books were probably in another building. And I thought, why would they be in another building? Something's weird. This will explain that. Loss to the county cannot be estimated in dollars and cents. Last Saturday morning, now this is gonna make you think when I'm reading this, why are there nobody there? Listen, last Saturday morning between the hours of 1 and 4, that's at nighttime. They don't say it, but after you figure it out, that's what it is. In the town of Cookeville, was destroyed by fire together with nearly all the public records and documents. How the fire originated is a mystery. It is most absolutely certain that it was set on fire by some villain who was destroying court records. See, they actually said it, and this paper came out in May 18. This is less than a week after the fire. So they already knew, somebody knew, they wouldn't have wrote that if they didn't think they burned the paper, see? Somebody knew something, or they wouldn't have wrote it like that. This is a weekly paper, comes out once a week. There was no fire in the building, meaning, why is there no fire? It's May 18. They're fireplaces. They're not gonna have a fire going in a fireplace on a Saturday morning, There's no, court ended in Friday. So there's no fire. There was no fire in the building. See, when you read that and you don't realize what they're talking about, they're meaning in the fireplaces. There was no fire in the building and had not been during the day previous. See, May 18th is probably warm enough where you wouldn't go to all the trouble to build a fire in the fireplaces. Several persons on the square as late as midnight, that's how you know it burned, right after midnight, before the building saw nothing unusual about the courthouse. About 1:30 in the morning, the fire was discovered by some of the residents on the square. An alarm was given, which, strange to say, you find it strange in a newspaper? This is really strange to say, did not bring out many people. Owing no doubt to the unusual hour, but still at 1 o'clock in the morning and it burning, you'd wake everybody up.
One would think so.
This is what it says, a time when all were asleep. There was not exceeding 25 persons on the square at one time. That ain't nothing. So they were afraid to come out. Think about it. Why were they not there? They were afraid. Why were they afraid? I'll tell you why. We figured out. It doesn't say this nowhere, but remember again, it's speculation. There's no proof. But why did this guy write this? And many people who lived in the immediate vicinity of the courthouse knew nothing of the catastrophic until the morning. The first officials on the scene who had offices in the building were the clerk and master, Watts, Register Thompson, Circuit Court Carlin, and Deputy County Clerk Davis. Sheriff Alcorn and Judge Puckett were also on hand. Efforts were at once directed towards saving the records, but owing to the fact that the fire had gained such headway, filling the offices with smoke, it was exceedingly difficult for anyone to remain long inside. All of the books in the registrar's office were saved except 3 books, letters KLM. These, however, are very important. Much credit is to who? What's his name?
Gracie.
First name?
Charlie.
Yeah, you got it. Charlie Gracie.
He saved it.
Everyone that's a Putnam County resident should know what his name is. Because listen, he's only 18 years old. Much credit is due for getting out the records in the registrar's office. He did efficient work, and his services should be recognized by the county court. Not a single book or paper from the circuit court clerk's office was saved, as nearly everything was upstairs in the courtroom, where circuit court had been in session the day previous. And it was upstairs, it seems, that the fire was first discovered, that that part of the building burned first. The county clerk saved 3 books and no papers, while in the clerk and master's office, all of the valuable land records, dispositions, books were all lost with the exception of 3 or 4 books. It ended, we don't know if it's said anymore, but that's all the microfilm would show. Okay, what was going on the day before in that court?
In that court.
See, that's what you would look for, wouldn't you?
Did you look for that?
Yes, we looked at the newspaper the week before. But no one did this in history. I don't know why it's never been mentioned. So, have you ever heard about the Brazel brothers being hung?
Oh, yes. Yes.
You ever heard about that?
Oh, yes.
Okay, there's these two, and you have to say, when you talk about hanging, especially in the United States, you have to say, if it was black guys, you'd want to say black guys. If it's white guys, you would definitely want to say white guys, because regular educated people would automatically think it was black people. Uneducated people might not think that, but they're told that way by professors and history books. They don't mention white people being hung like they were. That's a fact that no one can dispute. So most people generally think by hanging they were black. I don't know why. I didn't, because I was raised in Detroit. Detroit really told things differently than they. It was a very smart public school system. So this is what was going on with the Brazel brothers. The Brazel brothers were hung about, I don't know, 15 years before that, 20 years at the most. And they were hung on Billy Goat Hill, where we don't know exactly where that is, but we believe it's behind Kroger. So, they had a brother. His name, normally I can do this quick. I think it's the cold weather. James. Those 2 Brazel brothers had a brother named James. Well, James had 2 children, and Clay and Claude Brazel. So James Clay and Claude, the brother of the 2 Brazel brothers, him and his 2 sons were accused of murdering Giles Bradford. This is what the week paper before, circuit court. Remember, where'd the fire start? It started in the circuit court. So they went up there to burn those records.
Oh, okay.
See, I've never heard anyone say that. I never even knew this story till I just started digging this stuff up. The present term of circuit, this was May 11th, see? This is May 18th, newspaper May 18th.
Same year.
May 11th. The present term of circuit court has been grinding slowly on account of being crowded with important cases. All of this week and part of last week was consumed with the case of the state against James, Clay, and Claude Brazel for the murder of Giles Bradford. The jury returned a verdict of murder in the 2nd degree and fixed the punishment of each of the defendants at 15 years in the penitentiary. The case against Tex Tucker for murder was continued. The state versus P.B. Ellison for forgery continued. Charles Isom, whom Wayman Isom and Perry Exes were sworn killed Constable R.H. Jared near Bloomington July 4th, 1896, and has since been in parts unknown, came in and surrendered himself and was admitted to bail in the sum of $5,000, which is a lot of money. So I know about all those cases because that's what I like to look up. And that happened in Silver Point. Palo Jones, Andrew James Bohannon, and James Ray were each sentenced to 1 year in prison for stealing chickens. Okay, so this is wild. So when you read there's more articles about these people up here, but I didn't think to bring all that mess, because we'd be stuck on that case more than the rest of it.
That's been in the paper, that Brazel thing has been in the paper.
So what the deal is with that, think about, they actually end up getting 2 years, because all the evidence was burned. They go to trial again. It's really crazy. So, and they murdered people, stole from people, and the Bradford man, Giles Bradford, was actually friends with him and lived across from the farm. His farm was across where they're buried behind Upperman High School. So if you start putting it all together, it was really wild. And I got an article where they're visiting Giles Bradford. He's an older man and they just kill him. So I'm thinking there's something involved in that. But let's just move on. So that's wild. That just, maybe it's not fair for me to say that, but it's got to be something like
Well,
that.
it's an archivist. How this hanging was unusual.
You're right.
How many hangings like that?
They say that's the only legal one, but see, if you watch Channel 5 News, remember the ones I described earlier, they want to lean it toward negativity, toward people who think like I do. Because I was watching an article not long ago, I'm watching it on TV, and I didn't watch it because I don't watch Channel 5. I want to turn them on. I don't want them to know that my house even turns on those channels, because they're keeping up with it now. They used to didn't keep up with it, and they had Nelson's ratings, you know, and I would actually get them. They'd send me $1, and I would put up what I was sending, I'd send it back. Well, when that program, somebody was talking about it, and they sent it in, it was saying how Baxter was a racist place. This is just like 2 years ago. Channel 5 the guy has no business saying that about Baxter. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I grew up in Baxter. That really makes me mad. And that's kind of what brings the story up, because you mentioned the hanging. So,
yeah, I was just curious, how many?
That's what I'm talking about.
What year was the hanging that you're talking about?
This one here's 1879. Okay, what happened on this one? These two guys, brothers, they went down. There's plays done. We got photographs of them hanging, the whole deal. 10,000 people came behind Kroger's. That's what we really believe it's like right behind Kroger's. Actually at the intersection of Highland and Borden streets.
Wait, Highland and Borden.
Okay, Borden goes if you go up Fouch's, it's that Blue Water now. There's a road called, you know, they named Bunker Hill Fouch. Did you know? Which they should have never did. If you go behind Kroger, that street's called Fouch now. It used to be Bunker Hill. Same Bunker Hill from the courthouse to there that goes to White County, and it was actually on its way to Rock Island. Sparta wasn't the capital way back then. When that road was made, it was going to Rock Island. So the judge said 1 mile south, okay, that's Bunker Hill, because Jefferson wouldn't have been there. See, Jefferson going to Sparta wouldn't have been there way back then. So that's where we think that is. So they were hung there, but what they had done, they went to Baxter, to Allison Stand. Didn't you say that was your first name?
I've seen that.
It was named after you. She's here. I planted her.
I planted her.
Oh.
I planted her here.
She's there. But see, these are interesting things, especially the way I tell them, because I give you a thinking. I don't tell you how to think. I tell you how I'm thinking for you to look it up yourself and figure it out. But what I have figured out in all of this, these two guys went down there to rob the trustee who was used to years ago. You didn't. I mean, how would you pay your taxes? Put them in the mailbox. Well, you ain't gonna put cash in the mailbox. So the trustee went farm to farm to farm and picked your money up. And so he'd have all that money. So he would stop at the Ellison Stand. That would be like a Motel 6, a cheap joint, tavern they call them too. So that's right down there on Highway 70, which is the Walton Road. Well, while he was there, he really wasn't there. He was supposed to be there because he would have a schedule. So all the people that were paying would know when he would, it's called a circuit, you know. He went on a circuit to pick the taxes up, and he would do the same every year. They knew, like if he picked it up at your aunt's house down the holler, you're gonna figure out he's gonna be on your ridge on that, cause
Mhm.
you know, some people, they're not gonna stand there with their money. They have to, you know, they have to dig it up or whatever. So these guys went down there to rob him, and it must have been dark, the way I understand. I didn't read it that well. Knocked on the door, and the guy in the house recognized, they were dressed up, covered up their faces with brown or black or tar, I don't remember exactly, it's been so many years since and he recognized that he knew that was the Brazel boy. Well, he ended up shooting him, and then they made a posse. These are Allison brothers. The Allison got shot there. So they got it, the sheriff made a posse, and the Allison brother to the Brazel brothers, the Allison had a brother too. So he got on the posse. So they went looking for the Brazel brothers and whoever else was there. There were other people involved in it too. So the Brazel guy, the other shot the other Allison. So both of the Allison brothers died. One was killed at the Allison stand, and the other one was killed somewhere else. We don't know where. I'd like to find out that spot when they were looking for him. So they were arrested eventually, and they were taken to Cookeville. Then they went to trial and all of that. Well, then they went to Nashville. They were taken to Nashville. Supreme Court seen their case, and people would talk to them. New York people would come down and talk to them, interviewed them, all kinds of stuff's written on them. Well, one of them said he didn't do it, which is very possible, right up to the day he was hung. So what they did, they said they're going to, you know, be hung at Belly Goat Hill. So they took him from the jail from Nashville. I don't know where they didn't actually say where they got him from, but they went to Nashville after they were in Cookeville, and they put him on their caskets. They put 2 caskets in the wagon and put them both on the top of the caskets. I don't know if they were sitting there or laying. There's no picture of it. So it's another one of those things. When people tell you something with history, always be skeptical. How do they know all the facts? We can see that. That's not a made up, they didn't have Photoshop back then. You can kind of figure that one out. Notice there's no hands on the clock. Did you notice that right off?
I can't even see that.
See, there's no hands on the clocks. They're just, I don't know what.
And what side of the courthouse
Okay.
is that?
This right here is Jefferson.
Okay.
This is Broad Street. This is where they added that addition to, the 2-story addition that's flat. You know where the trustee is and Randy Porter's office is.
That would be entrance off of Broad
Right.
Street.
That's the part they added on. And see, it had a round building right there. See, that part's completely round with a round. They shouldn't have got rid of that, but they did. So that's where it came off, the addition to it. The reason I know that for sure is because I got another picture and I could actually see a building that's still there. And another reason, you can go up in here. The building's cut off right here. It's a flat roof now, and it's got steel beams. Those windows are still there. But inside there, where this clock thing's stuck, you know, that's all brick. Can you imagine the weight? And it made the building twice as high. So it would be a huge tower up there. Well, that had to have a lot of weight. So if you can go in this area right here, and you can see where the bricks, you know, the big square of bricks is in the attic. And this is what's another thing. People say, oh, they should have never tore it off. I think it would have fell off because you can take the bricks and shake them and they'll come off. So the mortar was bad. So I know the guy that did it, a lawyer, and the judge. The lawyer told me, he's dead now. He came and told me, because I've been doing this job for 20 years. He told me that they wish they'd have never. I said, yeah, but did you ever think about the mortar was rotten? I said it would have had to have been took down and put back up. You can't, the wind would have blown it off. And he said, yeah, it was deteriorating. That was one reason they redid it, but he still wished they'd have put it back. That's what they should have done. But they didn't. So the, getting back to the Brazels killing the 2 Allisons, one said he was innocent, so they were hung. 10,000 people came, they took pictures and all that, and they buried them where Upperman High School used to be.
You know what, I heard something, they buried them down on Diddy Road.
No, that's the Allisons are buried there.
Okay.
The Allisons, they're in the Ray Cemetery.
Yeah, okay.
on the left. When you go down Diddy, turn left, they'll be on the left.
Okay.
So the Allison brothers are buried there on the Brazel farm that Baxter Seminary ended up buying. And I went to high school. That was the high school was there at that time. It was the new one. The old one was tore down in '76. They built a new one in '77, and that's like Prescott. Cornerstone something. I don't know what to call it, but they should have left that name Upperman on that property when they built the new schools on 70. But that's politics and all that too. So this is kind of interesting. So this is what I find amazing. This guy right here saved those books.
Do you know if that fella has any descendants?
Yes, he did. He had 2 daughters, and
Was one of them a teacher in Putnam County? You don't know.
I don't know. Well, I don't. You know, they wouldn't have the same last name.
Well, this one did because I don't think she ever married.
Then he'd have to be. Oh, the girl, the
Maybe.
woman. How old? Well,
She,
see,
I don't know. She was my teacher when I was.
he's
in high school. And that's why it could certainly be.
Yeah, but they could have been cousins because they were
Sure.
from White County. His parents were from White County. He came to live in Cookeville when he was 18 because his grandfather was 76, and his grandfather's name was Moore. So, on Jefferson, and there was a Moore that was connected to a lawyer's office and a pharmacy. So I'd say he's connected. But when he was 18, he saved those books.
Okay.
And everybody should be excited about that, you know, that look stuff up. So later on, he became the state fire marshal. Must be from climbing through the courthouse with it on fire, burning like that. Apparently nobody else would go in there because the fire was so intense. Well, then he became internal revenue guy when he died. And on his obituary, it mentions nothing about saving those books. And see what he saved those books? The register of deed books were very important because if you two had that dispute, you would want to go back as far as you could go, and somebody 10 years from that fire couldn't even figure out where they are, you know. And in Jackson County, the courthouse burned in 1872, and all the register books are gone. But the circuit court, chancellery are all there. They're just burned. They have burn marks on them, all the books, except all the registry of deeds are gone. And that's how many years after the Civil War? Just a few. I believe somebody set those books on fire. They burned the deeds for people stealing their farms. That's just my guessing. You know, you got to think your own. Everything that someone tells you, you have to think.
Figure it out.
What's the evidence?
So you might have said this, but why did that guy save the book? Was he working? Like, what was his?
It doesn't say he
what
was.
his
He was
position?
18 years old.
Yeah, what was he
That's
doing?
all it says. He's just a young guy, come out when the fire was going. And it says, now it says, the third courthouse, now again, I've never seen a picture of it. They show a picture, I don't believe that's the picture, it looks like the Jackson County Courthouse. I don't know about it. I don't wanna be negative, but if you're gonna be history, you should have some facts when you're writing something.
Are there any pictures of those older courthouses?
No.
No.
They got one that they say is the one that burned just before that one, but how do they know that's the picture? It doesn't show, like the outside don't show like nothing that I've seen that was outside there. I can't figure out why they didn't take a picture of it. There was pictures way before then. Well, it says 2-story brick building with 2 stairwells burned in 1899. So it had to have been a big building. So the guy, remember the records are upstairs. And it's burning all upstairs, so he's climbing down underneath there to get that. Why did no one else go in there with him? If somebody else would have went in there, that means they would have said it. That means it was like burning big time. So this guy was a real hero to Putnam County, you know, because why didn't somebody else walk in there too? If it's burning up on the top, why is this guy the only one mentioned that went in there? It must have really been burning. And it apparently burnt to the ground. And that's that on that. Now this is kind of an unusual thing. This was, let me tell where this came from. This was in the Putnam County Herald. You know, the Herald Citizen was not the Herald Citizen the whole time. It was the Putnam County Herald and the Cookeville Citizen. I think it was Cookeville. It was something Citizen. and they bought it together, and it became the Putnam County, it was the Putnam County Herald before. That's where this article came from, then it became the Herald Citizen. That's how that worked out. And at the fairgrounds, we have the printing presses for the Putnam Herald.
Really?
You know, I try to save everything I can, but no place to put it. So I was hoping the fairgrounds didn't sell till we had a museum built. We have a Putnam County Museum, but it's at the Archives building where I'm at. It's
Right.
just the dolls collection. Have you ever seen
I
that?
have.
Have you seen the dolls? You need to come there and see where I'm at. It's really
I didn't
nice.
know I didn't know they put the dolls back in there though. I thought they made that the veterans place and.
No, it's the
The
Veterans
dolls are
Halls
back in there.
downstairs, but there's an area it's pretty big. And a lot of the dolls are there, and some of the other artifacts for the county. We're hoping we'll get a museum. But this is interesting. I like looking at microfilm. You find stuff that no one. Why isn't this written in history books? You know, why don't anyone know this? But it's not. The contract for building the stone fence. See, this is what's funny about it. Look, 1905. See that? You see how weird that is. So let me show. So this is where it says it come from. Charlene McLean sent it, submitted by Charlene McLean, Putnam County Herald, July 5th, 1905. Okay. I got a picture of it. That's 1911.
Oh, and it's not
Now
there.
you see why I
It's
say.
not there.
Uh-huh.
Ah,
That's why
okay.
the deceiving people, if they
Okay.
deceive you on one thing, just like Dearborn and all that, you're not being told something that's that important, the rest of it's deceiving too. That's how you gotta figure it out. If you're deceived on one thing, you're deceived on everything.
Why would they?
I don't know, I can't figure it out. This picture says 1911 on it. The 1912 I got it from the state archives like years ago. And then when you get the next one is showing the wall.
Now, is this the existing wall that's still there?
Huh?
Is this that
Yeah.
block?
Yeah, you can
on
tell it, the rock,
wall
yeah.
That's still around the courthouse?
Yeah, but I don't understand how 1905. Listen to this. The contract for building the stone fence around the courthouse fence. See, there's a fence, look. Remember I showed you?
I
There's
see
the
that.
fence. So that's the courthouse, that's to keep the cattle from going into the courthouse, because they ran everywhere. The contract, or horses or whatever, you know, that people had, or hogs when they ran the hogs through town on their way to market, the sheep, the goats, whatever. The contract for building the stone fence around the courthouse fence at the Cookeville, see that, it's just weird, you know, I don't say Putnam County, never, but it's Cookeville, provided that it was to be built of bright, hard buff stone and uniform color like that it used in the courthouse. The courthouse has that same rocks if you look. I know they stained them or something, but if you look on see these corners? Can you see them at the bottom? See them? Those are still there. That's the same as the wall. These are brick. You see what I'm talking about? You can see them under the windowsills, over the windows. The lintels that are over the
Yes,
windows have
yes,
that same
yes.
rock. They wanted it to match. The contract was when it's given to somebody, to Reverend Pfeiffer, colored, means he's a black guy, for the sum of $2,100. The Reverend Pfeiffer is now, with a force of hands, preparing the material out of a part of the coals from the Cumberland Buffstone Quarry. I don't know where that is. I'm gonna try to figure it out where that is whenever I got nothing else to do. The Honorable Judge and a part of the committee have made a recent visit to the quarry, and the committee, being highly pleased with the stone, deem it necessary to have those various colors used on the wall, that it may add beauty to the town and forever stand as an emblem of Joseph's coat. That's Joseph in the Bible, you know. Remember how all those same channels make it like Christianity's not in the United States, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. When this was incomplete, it was so far superior to the stonework done on the courthouse. No doubt His Honor and committee will reward the Reverend Pfeiffer with a golden calf. Same thing, Bible. Tell me how they got this story written then. I don't get it, do you?
So he was supposed to be erecting this wall in 1905.
You're saying it was too early because the
And
wall
this
wasn't
picture,
there.
it's not there in 1911, yeah. And maybe it's on the other side, maybe you just did half of it, you know, who
But
knows?
see, but stuff like, do you like
Yeah.
stuff like that? Mysteries that are written,
That's
told by
good.
all kinds of people.
Mhm.
See, can we go dig it up? How do we know that that picture right there is 1911?
Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah,
say,
So,
maybe it's
yeah,
isn't that what
I
you would
almost
first-
wonder,
Well, I didn't
and
think
it's-
that-
From now on, you gotta
Yeah.
do the news this way. Turn on 2 or 3 channels, those
Oh,
ones
yeah,
that I
yeah,
mentioned, and if they say the exact thing, it's not news. Somebody told them to say those exact same, if they're saying the same words and they're totally different, it's not real. You're being told what to say and what to think.
Are these wagons down here in the left?
Yeah.
Is that, are those wagons?
That's wagon right there.
Okay.
Here, let me. I shouldn't have made you have to look this far away, I'm sorry.
Okay, okay.
Isn't that a great picture?
It is a
Cool.
Now
great
see, when I
picture.
did
It is
this,
a great
I
picture.
had to scan it twice and use 2 pieces of
Oh, I
paper.
see that,
But it don't look bad, does it?
That's cool.
That's, yes.
But I love stuff like this.
Yeah, built in 1900, taken in 1911.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But I'm only gonna, again, was it really taken in
Curious, that's what
1911?
I'd be.
You see what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because when I found that
Yes.
1905 article, I'm going, but then again, if you ordered it in 1905, it would take them forever to cut that many stones. Don't you think? It made it to, and then something may have happened. There could have been, I know in 1911, there could have been some kind of a depression going on. There could have been, because it happens, what happened in like 1893, where they had to stop spending money? Like I know one time there was a depression when Custer, I really got a cool story on Custer. Making a little video of it. That's because Custer, the lone survivors buried in Baxter. See, that's kind of a cool
Well, you
thing.
need to have another.
Oh, that's really neat, the Custer,
seminar about
the
that.
Custer story
You
is
need
really
to tell
cool.
us, yeah, you need to have another seminar about that.
But the Custer thing is like, you'll be shocked. You don't even know. Did you know you know who General Custer is?
Sort of, I'm not a history buff.
Okay, what happened about Custer, which surprised me, he's buried at Upperman. I mean, not at Upperman, back right in the city limits. It's next door to our house. When I was in high school, we had the best history teacher. Her name was Miss Savage. She's still alive. And she had, this is crazy. It was a long walk, probably a half a mile, 3/4 of a mile. We left the school and walked all the way to the cemetery to look at the gravestone. But I already knew it was there. That's because I just lived next door. I'd fill the cemetery. Well, it's just an amazing story. And if you know anything about General Custer, he was the youngest general in American history, still up to date, still today. There's never been one as young as him. He was in the
His
Civil
age
War.
would have been what? How young was he?
Like 20, 21, so during the Civil War. Well, then when the Civil War ended, they decommissioned him down because they didn't need that many generals anymore, and the war was over. And then he went out west for the Indian Wars, and that's how the guy from Baxter left Baxter. He went in the Civil War. Just to tell you what's a coincidence is he was only 15 years old, and he was nabbed by the Union. His brother went to the Confederacy. The Union nabbed him, and they made him join the Union Army, or they probably killed him after because he was walking down the Walton Road. And so when the war was over, he was just 15 and a half or 16. He's still really young like that. And his regiment was sent to Appomattox Courthouse. What was going on there? Do you remember? You remember?
Just things in the Civil War. I don't know.
Appomattox Courthouse is where Robert E. Lee surrendered to General Grant.
Okay.
And this same guy witnessed that. His regiment was there at the surrender. This guy was doing all kinds of wild stuff.
Now, you're saying that Custer was from Baxter?
No, Custer, the 7th Cavalry, this guy from Baxter was in the Civil War and then went out west with General
With
Custer.
him, okay.
He was in the 7th Cavalry, the lone survivor, it says.
Okay.
Well, all the newspaper articles say he's not really the lone survivor, but nobody can prove that he wasn't. You said